Wow.
Joel Sherman joins us with the latest, I guess. Let's jump right in on this one, Joel. You'd been chasing this one down as well, and apparently it's a done deal.
Yeah, about 2 hours ago, I posted up on Twitter that it was very close and that it was likely to go down here, and it went down today. Two teams in different places. The Indians feel they can contend in the NL Central next year. They were looking for power. I asked what position to somebody, and the guy said, power. What position he's going to play. We'll figure it out if he hits another 25. I think he's hit 76 homers over the last 3 years, 25 last year. So, a first baseman, corner outfielder, DH type, who they'll move around and try to add to it.
They must feel confident about the surgery being no problem,
yes,
right?
Obviously, otherwise you don't do this, or you give up a lot less. The other one is the A's clearly going in a different direction. They've traded Donaldson, now they've traded Moss. They're listening on Kazmir and Samardzija. Lowry, Lester, Gregerson, all guys losing in free agency. Hamill, who signed with the Cubs. I talked to Billy Beane.
Fresno next year.
I talked to Billy Beane a couple of days ago, and he was like, we finished 11 games out of first place, and I'm losing all these players. And the Mariners are getting better. And last year was probably a one-year aberration with the Rangers based on injuries. And the Astros are getting better, and the Angels are going no place. And I could pretend of trying to keep this together on our shoestring budget, or I could think more globally about trying to put a lot of good players here again and trying to make another run.
So what'd they get? What'd they get for Moss? Do we know the compensation package?
The thing they've been asking people for is middle infielders and starting pitchers. Susan Slusser of the San Francisco Chronicle mentioned the second baseman, whose name is Joe Wheeler, I think, or something like that. I wonder if he's in it. And Cleveland does have a couple of secondary starting pitchers. I wonder if they end up in the
Okay, we'll get the details of that one, I'm sure, before it gets too much
I think
deeper.
this puts Cleveland in the driver's seat in the Central.
In the driver's seat, you're saying?
You look at their starting pitching, how they came on at the end of the year, not to mention the Cy Young Award winner. And their offense started to come around. This club, you throw Moss in the middle of that lineup, they're going to get run production. I look at how they finished the year out. I'm not as fearful of the Tigers as I was before. I don't think that's the same club. And we saw a lot of weakness out of the Tigers that you would not have expected. And I don't see anybody else. I think that's why the White Sox are trying to make moves. There is a crack right now in a window of opportunity to make a move in this division.
Harold, I agree with you. I do think it's why the White Sox are doing it. I think they see some vulnerability with the Tigers. It's kind of why you saw teams like the Blue Jays build up last year, the vulnerability in the Yankees and Red Sox. It's not always there. You want to go for it when you have a shot to go for it. Cleveland does have a strong lineup. A lot of players between 23 and 29 coming into their own, like Brantley, right? Yeah. They hope bounce back from Kipnis. And if you believe in that starting pitching, that was the best ERA in the American League in a rotation
they were awesome
in the second half. Mm-hmm. And I'm certainly a Kluber guy. Are you a Carrasco guy? Are you a Trevor Bauer guy? Because it's going to be really about those guys. If they're good, Cleveland is going to be pretty good next year.
Great point. And let me console my friend here real quick for a second.
There's no consoling. There's no consoling A's Nation anymore.
I understand where Billy's going. If he's going to go young, build them up, sign those kids, and keep them around.
Do everybody. I get that.
Keep them around.
I get that.
But you got to build. You got to make that move and bring.
There's club control left on Donaldson. There's club control left on Moss, and you get something from Moss out of nothing. This was a guy you picked up out the proverbial scrap heap. Yep. Are you getting enough in return?
And you gave up Addison.
We don't know that yet. We don't know that yet.
What I would say, Matt, is Billy is not a halfway measure guy. He's either all in or he's all out, right? And we saw during the summer, he went all in. Lester, Hamels, right? This is what he did, Samardzija. And now he just took a look at this. And I think the one thing you have to remember with Donaldson, it's control. But for the 4 years, it will cost probably between $50 and $65 million to control him, right? I mean, his price is just about to become an arbitration price that goes up. So Billy trades not just for the players, Brett Lowry, a couple of young players, a prospect they like a lot, whose bat they like a lot, and they hope he could stay at shortstop down below, but also the maneuverability of that $50 million that they don't have to spend on Donaldson.
And I get it. It's just, look, man,
it's tough
when
for
you're
the
a fan of a
base.
brand, you don't want to think of 2015 as a punt if you're a fan of the A's or a fan of anybody else that's trying to reload. I get the philosophy. I do get it. But there is this matter of an entire 2015 season to be played as well.
But I'll say this, Matt, is I think they've never won fewer than 74 games under Billy. So there hasn't ever been this kind of 62-win A team or 64-win A team. They're always kind of at least trying on some level. They did sign Billy Butler here. And I think, again, I might not be perfect in this. I think he's been the GM 15 years.
Billy Butler's going,
right?
Man, what in the world?
He's been to the playoffs in more than half of them. Like, the brand is that they get to the playoffs a lot. Like the Cubs, we think of, wow, look at what they're doing to build it up. They've won in the 60s now 3 or 4 years in a row in order to build it up. And let's see if it ever happens. Whatever you say about how Billy Beane deals in and out of stuff, that team has made the playoffs in half of the last 15 years.
The only thing that I like.
And that's their brand, winning when they have a shot to win.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I understand the thinking behind it. When you look at the division, I'm a big believer in this. Is your window now or is it not? Seattle, Texas is coming back, and you know that the Angels are going to continue to spend money. So you're looking at that, and you're saying, all right, are we going to jump in this thing right now?
Yeah,
I get it.
I hear all
But what's frustrating is you get these guys, they got to go back to the old John Hart Cleveland thing and lock the young players up. If that's the most thing that makes sense to me when you're talking about all the Moneyball philosophy, then why aren't you locking young players up for long term? And you got to run for 6 or 7 years. Yeah. Take a gamble on, I think this kid as a rookie is going to be a great player. Let's lock him up.
Can I say one that I think why he doesn't do that to some degree? I bet you there was no player in his 15 years he believed in more than Eric Chavez, and he gave him the 6-year contract.
Right.
And Eric Chavez broke down.
Yeah, but you can't,
and I think
you can't
Billy
hold to one guy
I
and
know,
say, that's it.
But I think, again, the big picture is they make the playoffs a lot, especially considering their payroll. And I think Billy will say, just give me the chips and I'll keep dealing in and out of it, and we'll make the playoffs half the time.
And I get the philosophy. It's just one of those things that as a fan, you just you have to kind of re-gear and hope for the best. And we don't know about these young players that are coming in return. You hope that it all works out. All right, let's change gears. Let's go to the Yankees, because the Yankees have been active, right? They made a couple of moves prior to the winter meeting starting last week. Chase Headley, David Robertson, is one or are both returning to New York, or are they out?
Well, I reported this morning also that the Yankees, who were holding the line tight on 3 years, are willing to go 4 years on both of those players. And I think the negotiations are exactly the Andrew Miller negotiations. We'll only do 3, we'll only do 3. Okay, we'll do 4, but we'll lower the average annual value if you're willing to sign with us. And the question is, like, I think down deep the Yankees know Robertson really liked being a Yankee, and Chase Headley really liked being a Yankee, and they wonder if 4-year deals get those guys to come back, maybe for even less than they have someplace else, to come to them. I will say this. You have to think of moves the Yankees made as hedges. They got Martin Prado during the season. He could play second or third. Obviously, if they re-sign Headley, that's the best situation because you got a kid now replacing Derek Jeter. You'd like to put 2 solid veterans between, to bookend D.D. Gregorius. That would be the best thing. But if he's got to play Prado at third base and they go with a kid, Jose Pirela or Rob Snyder at second, they'll do that.
I got to ask you this, Joel, because we're talking in terms, I've been hearing this for a week or 2 weeks, and everybody's talking about Chase Headley and all this and that. Nobody's mentioning Alex Rodriguez. I'm sorry, but he's coming back. So where does he fit in this equation? Is it basically, okay, you're going to sit on the bench, we're going to eat the 61, you go home? But the fact of the matter is, he has some impact here.
So the question I would ask, Harold, if you were the general manager of the Yankees, like, what percentage would you put on it that Alex Rodriguez gets 1 plate appearance this year, 100, 200?
You don't know.
You don't know. So you
better,
if you're going to have a $200 million payroll and play to try to contend for something, you better be in a position where someone can play third base. Hey, look, if he can play third base and they don't sign Headley, if he could play third base, they'll put Prado at second. I just think that he's, it's 2 hip surgeries.
No, I'm
he's
with
39. He's 39. He hasn't really taken a full year of baseball in 3 years now. Who knows psychologically where he is after a year's suspension and if he tries to play clean. There's so much against him being able to play and play well that if you had a bet is he will take no at-bats or he will take more than 1 at-bat. It's almost a stronger bet to bet none at this point.
The Yankees win.
Stop it. Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this, though. $61 million left on Alex's deal. Is that the money?
Yeah.
Boy, in today's market, you could get a 2-year deal on a setup man for $61 million. That's
maybe Alex could be a setup man.
Right. Hey, before we let you go quickly, Justin Upton, is he going to be moved or not?
The feeling coming into these meetings was he was one of the more likely players to be traded. I still think there's a market there for him. I wonder if the Indians are out now that they got Moss, because they were one of the teams that were looking at him. But the Rangers, the Padres, the Royals still looking at him. But the Braves have a price on him. It's got to be better than Jason Hayward, who they got Shelby Miller and a prospect Terrell Jenkins for. Obviously, Hayward brings the defensive component, but the feeling of the Braves is in an atmosphere where offense is so hard to find, We're going to give you one of the finer sluggers in baseball who also could go play the outfield. You've got to give us better than Haywood.
Now, we're good friends. Ken Rosenthal, I'm good friends. John Heyman, good friends. Ken's had this issue with this picture. I'm just curious, your thoughts of this. You know, that you guys were ants running around going to get all the information.
Guys, you couldn't make us killer bees. You had to make us ants.
Exactly.
You know, you can't spell
I'll
say this, you can't spell the word giant without ant.
It is.
Oh, there you go.
Is that a brat or a hot dog?
Is that,
that was a Dodger dog because he was chasing down a Dodger store.
Very good.
Oh, I thought it was the ugliest taco I've ever seen here in San Diego.